Hi guys, welcome back to the Average Pundits podcast, your home of all things Premier League. The last episode I was unfortunately not here for. I've been living under a rock for a little bit of time. I've been living under an assumed name somewhere hot, somewhere away from the UK. But I'm back now. I've come to terms with it. It was a well-deserved title win. I definitely know a co-host of mine who would be pretty happy about that. As always, I'm with Reese. How you doing, Reese?
How are we doing? Coincidentally, I'm actually wearing my Liverpool top right now. So, we're still celebrating, even though we did get hammered by Man City. But, we move on, and all spirits are good right now. It's good to have you back. Thanks to Phantom Fleet's George for filling in last week. I really enjoyed having him on. And, it's good to get you back, partner.
Yeah, George had a really good episode last week, so a big thank you to him. And I think it's only fitting this week we come back with a Manchester United episode. We've got a really interesting topic for you guys today. Obviously, Manchester United are a team in very, very good form at the moment, so I'm sure we will have some interesting things to say about Manchester United. In kind of world football at the moment. Right now, it's kind of a race. It has been for the last few years now for European football amongst all of the top leagues. That's currently one of the battles which we're facing at the moment. With Liverpool having won the title and Manchester City looking to finish quite comfortably third, fourth, fifth, sixth. These are all positions that are up for debate. Also, with Manchester City having a 2-year ban from the Champions League, that could make things a little bit more interesting as well. So first things first, Reece, I just want to say, this top four battle, how do you think it's going to shape out?
Well, you've got the top two positions sorted pretty standard, and then I think you've got for the other two positions, you've got Chelsea, Leicester, and also Manchester United fighting for it. I don't think you've got a lot of other teams. Maybe Wolves, but I think they're a bit by the wayside at the moment. Their form is kind of dipping. That loss to Arsenal kind of hindered their chances of potentially making that top four position. Leicester's dipping form as well is kind of showing signs of their collapse. And if Chelsea are doing this well right now, how well can they be doing next season? So I think it's only a matter of time before we do find out. There's 5 games at the time of recording that we have remaining to play. And at this point, with this episode being about Manchester United, I can definitely see them pushing for the top 4, maybe even third, and beyond, just behind Manchester City. But again, only time will tell.
It does seem to be going that way. This run of form that we're in, it's something which we haven't seen in this kind of platform for quite a while. I mean, obviously, because there are so many densely packed Premier League games, we aren't religiously covering every single result as we used to earlier on in the season, simply because, there's so much going on. We want to make sure we get interesting topics out for you. But today, like we've said, we are having a deep dive into Manchester United, and currently a Manchester United side on a very, very impressive winning streak. At the moment, I'm not sure who it's going to be who can stop us. Our remaining games, the toughest competitors we've got in the Premier League is Leicester. We've got Chelsea in the FA Cup, but Leicester is the last remaining game, which I feel like could really give us a bit of trouble. And honestly, haven't seen the performances. The most recent performance that we can talk about in depth is the 5-2 win against Bournemouth. Oh my God, apart from a couple of defensive errors, I think we were completely on the money in that game from all angles of the pitch. But one person in that game shone incredibly against the others, and that's even shining above some absolutely incredible goals scored, and that's Mason Greenwood. Reece, what a talent.
Mason Greenwood has been someone on my radar for quite a few years, to be honest, and it was only a matter of time before he was in the starting lineup, and it's definitely something that Manchester United fans can get excited about. We discussed this, off air and in the sorts, but I proposed, a Manchester United front three where they're all forwards. No one's a winger. They all play. Obviously, there's going to be 3 up there, so one's going to be pushed out slightly wider than the other. But with Greenwood's left foot, you can shoot with either foot. So him coming off the side at any point would be insane. I know either Martial or Rashford playing in the middle, and then someone slightly veering off left. But I think those 3 in particular, Greenwood would flourish in this team. The creativity of Bruno Fernandes setting up, Robin van Persie-esque. Mason Greenwood, I would compare to Robin van Persie if he had blistering pace, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of being able to use both feet, certainly Manchester United haven't seen a player like that since Van Persie's departure, because he was, a kind of an all-round, both feet merchant with scoring goals all over the pitch. So it's interesting to see that. It's a really valuable thing to have at a club, because it's not often you get somebody who is that well versed at scoring goals with both feet. So, like you said, I mean, I think that attribute, I think, is almost invaluable. So it's something that Manchester United would be good to utilise. At the moment, Mason Greenwood is currently being deployed most frequently on that right wing position, which has been a position up for debate for God knows how long at Manchester United now. It's been a very, very highly contested place. And we've tried all sorts of options there. We've tried Juan Mata, we've tried Jesse Lingard, we've tried Rashford himself. Occasionally Martial would drift over to the right as well. And now Mason Greenwood's come in, and he seems to be doing quite a decent job there. And at the moment, his rival for that starting spot is Dan James, who came out, all guns blazing at the start of the season, but has kind of slipped under the radar a little bit afterwards, and his performances haven't been as top notch as they once were. So, I mean, in terms of that battle at the moment, if Greenwood keeps scoring the goals he's scoring, I think he's solidified that right wing position.
Oh yeah, definitely. Daniel James, Kate, he was all the rage at the beginning of the season. Oh my God, he's so quick. He can win so many fouls. He did come under a lot of criticism for diving at the early stages of the season, but then his momentum really died off, and we sort of seen the player that he is, and he's nothing more than really bang average. If I'm honest, I don't think that there's a lot of big enough ceiling for Dan James, and I might come to eat my words in the next in the coming years, but. Dan James is someone that I can see that's easily replaceable. He's a good, player to come off the bench. He gives United a load of options where, with pace down that right hand side if someone's in need of a break. But if Greenwood is okay playing slightly off right for that Manchester United front three and turning in and putting a ball top left of the goal, from the right hand side of the box, I think that can be. Greenwood's new calling. I think that Dan James's time might be up.
I think what I would like to see, depending on what happens in the summer, I'd like to see him have a little loan move somewhere. I think that would be good for him. He's right now. The one thing which does baffle me is I want to know what a lot of people thought he was going to be. He was a £15 million signing from Championship side Swansea. He everyone knew he had pace. He had a couple of eyes for goals, but he was playing off the wing most of the time. More as a right midfielder as opposed to pressing really high up the pitch. But everyone knew that he did have the pace there, which I think is what Manchester United wanted, because a lot of clubs do have that pace merchant on the bench, which you can bring on late into a game, and literally his job is to run. His job is to completely run up the pitch, and obviously, he can win a couple of fouls. He's a smaller stature player, so I think he can win a couple of fouls. But that is his, his kind of unique element. So I think what we've got for him, I think he was a good price. I think he is a complete substitute player. He's someone you bring off the bench and he's someone who would do a job for you. But a little loan move away from him could, kind of progress him even further, especially with Greenwood having so highly occupied that role currently. I mean, in 26 appearances in the Premier League, 19 of those being off the subs bench, so not very many starting at all. He's achieved 8 goals in 26 games. I hate to do it to you, Reece, but I'm going to have to compare it to the Liverpool top dog, Roberto Firmino. In 33 appearances for Roberto Firmino, 3 of those only being off the subs bench, he has also had 8 goals. I mean, as the leading man for Liverpool, I mean, obviously you've got a trio of goal scorers up there, and there's a kid, who's spent most of his season coming off the bench. Slightly going off topic, but maybe Firmino isn't this season, the top dog.
Oh no, I don't think Firmino positions himself as that top dog. He does take a back seat very often, but a lot of people do like to give him criticism, and I mean. he shouldn't have the label as a striker. I always said that we should be going after Timo Werner and putting Firmino into a creative role because he is valuable for assists and he is valuable for spreading the play. And that would be where Timo Werner came in to the squad and add a few more goals. Yes, we have Mane and Salah that have all the goals and they produce a lot of the chances. But Firmino has had a lot of shots this season that just haven't gone in, and that to me was a shocking statistic. Yes, he hasn't scored a lot, but he has had the chances. That's the thing. He hasn't been great this. I mean, he's been great off the ball and creating chances, but when he's had the ball, he hasn't been the greatest.
Yeah, I think. Obviously, we have drifted a little bit off top there, talking about Liverpool, but I think when there are younger players, maybe, as a comparison point, because he is your lead striker, that's what he is. I mean, he may not, a lot of Liverpool fans say that he doesn't necessarily fit that mold, and he's very unique and he's very abstract and everything. But when there is a striker who is out there who's significantly younger and coming off the bench, who is putting a lot of good stints in, I think it's definitely important to have a look and see what's occurring there. But drifting back onto Manchester United, going back to the other attackers we do have at the club, Anthony Martial recording his best tally in English football since he joined the club after Louis van Gaal signed him in, I believe, 2014. That 2015 rather, it's the 2015-16 season, and he came in for the £54 million pound fee. And this season, in 27 appearances, he's got 15 goals and 3 assists, which is a pretty impressive turnout. I don't think he's going to be winning the Golden Boot, but I certainly think this was a way more positive season for Martial. He's always been somebody quite highly debated, So I'm happy to see, a good performance from him this season.
Yeah, Martial's one of those players that despite the team that he plays for, I don't actually mind him. He did score against us on his debut, and Martin Tyler gave that. Welcome to Manchester. Yeah, yada yada yada. Martial is one of those players. He is good on the ball. He's a fantastic player when he's on his day. He was a bit missing at the start of this the Premier League restart. So Martial is definitely a player that's come into his own this season, especially in the last stages of this restart. And his goal tally kind of shows that. He got a hat trick, the first hat trick since Robin van Persie back in 2014, which is a great achievement for the young Frenchman. And the only way is up, to be honest, in this United team, if he stays there or if he seeks greater pastures.
Yeah, I think he's always been somebody who has had the potential to maybe a big money move come in, but I think the consistency where it's been lacking over the years and having him consistently perform at this top level, that's what's halted him there. And I want to keep him Manchester United as much as I can, and I feel like we are still the right place for him. But it's only now that we've had the ability to kind of provide him with the play which he deserves to be playing. For some reason, we've had so much trial and error that we've seemed to kind of get a little formula which is working. His counterpart, Marcus Rashford, if you haven't listened to our previous podcast on Marcus Rashford, we did talk about him potentially being Sports Personality of the Year for his amazing charity work during lockdown. But Rashford, again, 26 appearances, 15 goals and 7 assists. So another example of a great kind of forward-thinking player. And in my opinion, I think, with Raheem Sterling's slight lull this season, hasn't been as good as he was last season. I think for the England Euros squad, I think Marcus Rashford may have that spot solidified, Reece.
Yeah, definitely. I think that Rashford is someone that's got to be an integral part of that team. When Harry Kane isn't scoring, then not Martial, then Rashford can be there to support and give fire where it's needed, alongside the other attackers that are going in the likes of Raheem Sterling and Jadon Sancho, which we probably will get onto in a latter stage of this podcast. But I think Marcus Rashford. Whilst he has taken a backseat this year, I think that, like Martial, the only way is up for him. He's provided a lot of important moments at the club, and I think that as a player, I think he could be one of the United legends for the future as well.
Yeah, I think he's on a kind of a direct path to those kind of record books, especially being a kid from the academy as well and being from the city. Again, I think since lockdown has come out, it's been a while until he got that goal. He got it during Bournemouth from the penalty. It wasn't the best penalty, but I think maybe now that he's got that goal, he'll be able to find a few more. Somebody else who'd come back from injury after this lockdown period and started to put in some decent performances is Paul Pogba. Again, probably one of the most highly debated, if not highly debated, players in the world, and that's my honest opinion. You know, he has a target on his back. He's a controversial guy, but when you cost a lot of money, when you were a little bit eccentric, you're always going to have a target on your back. So sometimes I feel for Pogba, sometimes I don't. A lot of time he creates the problems himself, but I definitely think he's someone who does deserve world-class status, and he 100% benefits United, and I honestly think he's staying now. I don't think anyone is currently in the position to get him away from the club. I think maybe next season will be the year we see him go, but I feel like a good indication you can always tell with Pogba and how he's feeling is how much stuff he posts on social media with him wearing the Manchester United shirt. That is the God's honest truth. When he's in a good mood and when we're in a good run of form, he's posting stuff every other day wearing the United shirt. He's posting training pictures with different people from the club. He's laughing and joking with his teammates, which is what you want to see. But it only ever seems to be when we're in a good run of form, and a lot of the time, so it should be. If you're not in good form, you shouldn't be expressing stuff over social media much. But if social media content when we're not in good form doesn't necessarily lessen, it's just less about the club. But at the moment, it seems to be that he is in very good form, probably because of a certain Portuguese midfielder who he is currently lined up with. But this season for Paul Pogba, only 11 appearances in total in the Premier League due to injury, and he's had 4 assists in 11 appearances. It's not, it's not the best, it's not the worst. I think he maybe has a little bit more to offer us in the games coming, to end the season on a positive. But as I mentioned, it is his counterpart Bruno Fernandes who currently has the English football world alight. 9 appearances, 6 goals, and 5 assists. Reece, are you gonna join me in just confessing your love for him because he is just brilliant?
I mean, he's a good player. I'm not going to say I love him because he's on the opposite team, but I will, credit is due for the Portuguese mastermind and what a player he is. I didn't think he was going to light the world on fire as good as he did, and I'm happy to say that I'm wrong because he is a fantastic player to watch. Watching the Manchester United games live and seeing his style of play is flourishing in this United team. As you say, 11 goal contributions in 9 appearances. That's amazing to see come in and implement his talents so quickly into this team and be such a role model for the rest of the team. It's definitely needed after a lot of mediocre midfielders.
I think as well, just before joining the club, his stats in the Liga NOS just before he joined: 17 appearances and 15 goal contributions. In the Europa League, 8 appearances and surprisingly 10 contributions. Very impressive turnout there. He also, he's had a couple of appearances in the FA Cup. Not too much to say in the FA Cup yet, but we're still in the running against Chelsea fairly soon. But I would honestly go out on a limb and say I have never seen a single signing change the dynamic of a club so much I have no idea how long. He has come in and he has been absolutely brilliant. The only other one which possibly I may liken it to is after Leicester winning the league and Chelsea signing Kante. Obviously, Chelsea won the season that year with Kante, and I think Kante was very instrumental in how strong they were that season. But apart from N'Golo Kante in the Premier League, I don't think I've seen this much of a difference in a very, very long time.
No, Bruno Fernandes has come in and completely changed the dynamic of the team. I think it's something that Ollie needed to stay, within a chance of keeping his job. So it was good for Ollie to keep this man, and I think that, I do think you're right. Not someone that, not one person anyways has come into a team and changed it so much. I don't think that's the case with Liverpool. I guess Kante was exactly that at Chelsea, but Bruno Fernandes has definitely made a big change.
One other player which I think deserves a little bit of credit before we start talking about some potential business for the summer this season is Nemanja Matic. Nemanja Matic has just put pen to paper with United and has signed a deal till 2023, which was something I wasn't necessarily expecting because, I mean, last season, a lot of mediocre performances led me to think he was done at the club and he'd had his time in the Premier League. But this season, the performances he has put in the Premier League, only 16 appearances, but the performances he has put in, I think he's been absolutely brilliant. So I'm more than happy to see him at the club now. I mean, the thought of a player retiring at your club is always pretty humbling. And, Matic has been here since 2017 now, so, 3 years already with us. And, a nice 6-year stint is a good way to kind of go out on a high, maybe. So it could be, he finishes his career with us. But I also do not think he's necessarily the man to start every game. I think the appearances he has done have been really good because he's been on a bit of a rotational basis. We've also got McTominay and Fred at the club. Fred's had a brilliant season. A lot of impressive performances from McTominay when he hasn't been injured. Our midfield's looking extremely strong, but I think one of the first bits of transfer business that need to be done this summer for Manchester United is to sign a younger, fitter defensive midfielder. And there are a few options out there. My personal favourites would be Thomas Partey from Atletico and Wilfred Ndidi from Leicester. But realism from the especially the Leicester end is probably not going to happen. But Partey, I think, might be there to go and get. Reece, having an anchor like an N'Golo Kante in a team, I feel that could be, the start of a really, really solidified midfield. Do you think someone of the caliber of Thomas Partey or Ndidi would be enough to carry United forward?
Yeah, definitely. With what I've seen of Thomas Partey playing in that win against Liverpool in the Champions League, I think that this could be something that Manchester United need, especially with the help that Matic has provided with his limited minutes and then coming on to be the player that he is. So I think that a guy like Partey could really invite a title challenge next season for Manchester United. And I think Partey, he's really good on the ball. He's quick as well. So I think that. Definitely, I think Partey could be a dangerous addition to Manchester United, and I think that's something that the rest of the Premier League title contenders should fear.
Yeah, I think the three most heavily, contested areas at the moment for United have been that DM slot, certainly the right wing, which we will talk about in a minute, and then also our defensive areas as well. One of the main criticisms during our good run of form has been a couple of defensive errors at the back from David De Gea, Luke Shaw, and Harry Maguire mainly. I think those are the three people that I've heard the most talk about. Harry Maguire, we invested the money in. I'm perfectly happy with Maguire. I think the criticism he gets a lot of the time is unjust. I think, he made a couple of really bad mistakes, but so do a lot of defenders. But you're not when you're a defender who plays for Manchester United, you're one of the people who plays in the England backline. Obviously, you have a lot more pressure on you. So give it a bit of time. I think Harry will find his foot in his first season. I think he should be immensely proud of what he has come in and achieved, especially as our club captain as well. Luke Shaw. I'd love to know your opinion on Luke Shaw, because I think since he's come back from lockdown, I think he's put up more good performances than he has bad. He's got Brandon Williams hot on his heels, putting in some really good performances. I think if the right amount of money came in, I'd be happy to let him go, or the right move for him came about, because I think I still want the best for him as a player. If it wasn't for that injury in the Champions League against PSV, who knows what he could have achieved. But that was certainly what has hindered his development. It was impressive he even came back from that. But I feel like a left-back reinforcement is something which potentially we could be looking at. And with Chilwell looking to probably be going to Chelsea, if all stories are believed, which would have been my personal choice, I'm not sure who else out there would fit the mould. Do you have any recommendations, Reece?
My mind immediately goes to the Argentinian left back that plays for Ajax currently, Tagliafico. He's been playing phenomenally in the Eredivisie, and I think that he's probably one of the better players in that league as well. So a lot of good players do come from Ajax and the Dutch league. So I think it's only a matter of time before Manchester United are in need of a left back solution. I think Brandon Williams is way too young at the moment, and I also think that Luke Shaw is bang average. I don't know whether you think that or not, but I just think that he's not good enough to play for a team as big as Manchester United that should be, they should be challenging for titles, not contending for the Europa League. So I think with the left back position. You can also go for Grimaldo, who plays in Liga NOS. Or you could, I mean, there are plenty of options. I mean, Chilwell could, in fact, stay, on course and go to Manchester United. He might not go to Chelsea in the end, but there are plenty of left back options. And I think, Alex Telles as well, the Brazilian national for Porto. There's a lot of options out there that Manchester United go for, and they're not like too old, and they're the right age to come into a team and make a difference.
Yeah, I feel like at the moment the standard that we're currently looking towards is Andy Robertson at Liverpool and also Alphonso Davies at Bayern Munich, who has embodied that role extremely well this season. I think he's been somebody that is 100% worth noting. But right now, in my opinion, fullbacks are also one of the hardest positions to find, because I feel like once a club has a good attacking or a good defensive fullback, they will hold on to them for dear life. So Luke Shaw, in my opinion, I do agree with you. I don't think he's anything more than average at the moment. He's safe, which is, I think what a lot of clubs have at the fullback position at the moment. The two most prominent left backs in the league, I'd say at the moment, are probably Chilwell, and then I'd say Robertson, and those two probably occupy the top roles. Lucas Digne at Everton is maybe at that third spot. But doing business with any other club in the Premier League, they're always going to push the price up. So I think potentially looking outside the league for us, but I don't know if the left back position is going to be prioritised this season, especially when you have Brandon Williams coming up, and you also have Delot still at the club, who can play at either right or left back position. So I would also really like to see some more from Delot. He's someone I hope sticks around. But the one position which I think is causing the most talk in the media is the right wing position. Obviously, Greenwood doing a great job there. Dan James possibly needing to put the boosters on a little bit more. But the name we are constantly being linked to in the media, in all the major news outlets or major sport news outlets, is Jadon Sancho. Jadon Sancho to Manchester United, in my opinion, it sounds right. In my opinion, it's the kind of move which I feel like would benefit us quite a lot. There's a element of risk there. He's very young, so I feel like, when you are a young player, you still have a lot of time to kind of adapt and fit the mold of a new league. I think it becomes a lot harder when you get older. But I feel like if he's going to come to the Premier League, it's either going to be us, or I've got a weird feeling Chelsea are going to throw something in the ring for him. Liverpool would be, I think, the most fitting destination for him, just based on everything that's going on. But out of constant conversations I've had with Liverpool fans, they do not think that is going to occur, which is, I feel like anyone who is in a position to go for him should go for him. I think he's a very, very good talent. But Jadon Sancho to Manchester United, Reece, can you see this one happening?
Yeah, I can if they want to sign him. That's the thing. If they want to pull the money out and sign him, then definitely. There have been, certain reports that have said that Manchester United might not be interested because of the price tag, and they're not willing to spend over, I think it's about 50 million, which, to be honest, wouldn't get you. It wouldn't get you Daniel James at this point. Or I think it's about Adama Traore that they're looking to value at about 50 million. So Jadon Sancho is definitely a step above because he can finish with the ball, and I think a player like Jadon Sancho could definitely change Manchester United up. But I think then that gives a bit of worry to guys like Mason Greenwood and those players that are maybe strikers but are willing to go out to the wings. And I think that if you bring him in, does that make the morale of certain players go down? Or, I mean, it would definitely annoy Manchester City fans for sure, because he came through their academy. I think that would be their ideal scenario for him to go back to City. Would he end up at another club like Liverpool? I mean, if we're willing to play Salah up front and then put Sancho on the right, yeah, definitely. Could he go to Chelsea? Potentially, potential German league link up with Timo Werner. I could see that happening as well. So I think there's a number of destinations that Jadon Sancho could end up in. Definitely not Arsenal or Spurs, because they're woeful. Sorry, Spurs fans and Arsenal fans. I mean, to be fair, Arsenal fans are used to it by now. They're absolutely rubbish. And I mean, yeah, Manchester United does seem a good fit, but it's again, it's if they're willing to pull out the bag of cash.
Yeah, that is the thing which is going to halt a lot of people. Obviously at the moment, some sources are saying, clubs don't have as much money due to all of the COVID-19 stuff, halting the league and a lot of fees not coming in maybe when they needed to and a bit more money needing to be paid out. Um, I personally don't think it's really going to affect things that much, especially when you've got clubs like Chelsea who are already paying through the nose for players. Um, and we're seeing, across Europe, like certain signings that are already kind of starting to, have the cogs turning. A couple of players have already been signed for certain clubs. I think that if he's going to go anywhere, I think United are leading the race. I think a lot of it will depend on if we have a positive finish to the season. I feel like a summer where we sign Jadon Sancho, where we sign a competent DM and potentially get another defensive reinforcement, whether that be another centre back. Nathan Ake has been somebody who's been linked with us, who I am extremely interested in signing. I think he's a very valuable player to come off the bench. Or potentially, like I said, another left back position. I think we will be in one of the most positive kind of dynamics we've been in since Ferguson left. We've had little pockets during Van Gaal. We've had Mourinho's kind of second season at the club, doing pretty decent. But this is the first time where I feel like we've had this real momentum behind us. And I honestly think you have to credit Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think you really do have to. His ruthlessness, ever since joining as an interim manager, we saw a few players leave the club. We saw Fellaini go out the door. We saw, a lot more decisive decisions on the pitch, a lot more attacking football being played early on, which I think is definitely what led him to getting that manager position secured. A major criticism about him is that a lot of people still don't think he's the man for the job. I think with a season of Champions League football back with him, we can recreate like that night against PSG. If we can recreate some of that magic, I think we could have a really positive kind of a display in Europe amongst the rest of the European elites. But Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I honestly do think you have to credit him. Reece, do you reckon he's going to stick around at the club, or do you reckon a couple of the other top league managers are starting to prick up their ears with the potential of maybe going to Manchester United?
You'd be stupid to get rid of him because I think as we probably discussed on this podcast as well, Manchester United have been that team that have struggled because of the amount of managers they've had since Alex Ferguson. And if you sack this manager, you're going to have even more troubles because there's going to be even more styles of play to learn, which would halt the progression of players like Brandon Williams and Mason Greenwood. They are learning under this manager right now. And to get rid of this manager right now is foolish. And if any United fan wants Ollie to go, they are foolish and they don't know what's best for their club. The only person that knows what's best for the club at the moment is Ole and the board. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is probably clued in right now. He's got his team. He has what he wants in mind for this summer. He has what he wants in mind for next year's season. He's pushing for top four because he knows that the United fans want Champions League football. That's where they should be. That they should be playing Tuesday and Wednesday nights, not Thursday nights. They shouldn't be playing, the teams that were playing last season in the Europa League. They should be playing against Juventus, PSG. They should be playing against these top level teams because that's what they are. In name, Manchester United are a top level team. And Manchester United fans, if you want that, keep your manager for a good 3 years. And you can be challenging for the Champions League again. You can be challenging for the Premier League title again. It's ludicrous to think that some United fans would want Ole gone and think that a manager like Allegri would change it. No, it would only halt progress. Bringing in Van Gaal, who was a world-class manager before, came in and absolutely flopped. Mourinho had 2 decent years, but then went off the 3rd year. So I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer just needs time to develop his players, develop a rapport with the players, and make sure that he can deliver them back to the promised land.
Yeah, I totally agree. It pretty much summed everything up I was thinking there. He right now is 100% the man which I want at the club. He may not have been what we expected to get. A lot of people were saying Pochettino was available, and Pochettino, would still be an absolutely brilliant manager, I think, in my opinion, at the club. But this is Ollie's rebuild, and everything so far that he has done, all of the good performances right now, he should be proud of. He is the one who is starting to, see some progress, in the kind of performances we're making. I think in the summer transfer window, we're in it. We're especially with Manchester City not being competing in Europe as well. we have a golden ticket, and we really, really need to take an opportunity now. We need to take a risk, we need to take a gamble, and we need to go, calculated moves in the summer, and we need to throw absolutely everything we've got into our performances next season. I certainly think Liverpool is still the standard to beat, but there is nothing saying that we can't give them a run for their money and we can't be hot on their heels. So next season, I think, is going to be a very, very interesting one. Whether it will be behind closed doors, we're not too sure. Whether European competitions go forward as we remember them, we're not sure. It's going to be, a lot of stuff up in the air, but hopefully in the coming weeks, coming months, we're going to get some answers and we have a lot more football to look forward to next season. But as always, thank you very much, Reece, for joining me on this episode.
As always, it's good to have you back, partner. It felt weird not having you there, but I mean, I couldn't contact you. Like as we've seen on our social medias, you can get us on our Instagram at Average Pundits, Twitter Pundits Average, and our Facebook The Average Pundits. Our business email theaveragepundits@outlook.com. Everyone could see that I couldn't contact you. I tried ringing you after we won the title, and no answer. I tried looking for you absolutely everywhere, and here you are out of the blue. It's been a week, so I'm glad that you're back.
Yeah, the signal where I was, it wasn't that good, and obviously you have to you're the Wi-Fi, you have to pay, and there's testing, and there's a lot of different factors, you got to. But I am back now. I have come to conclusion. Liverpool have won the league, and
You're not going to be there in 10 years, don't worry.
I've made my peace. But we will have a lot more interesting content coming out for you in the weeks to come. As Reece said, please do get a hold of us on our social media platforms. Stream us on your favourite streaming services as well. And you can watch all of the episodes we recorded since the start of the season on our YouTube channel as well. Thank you very much, guys, for listening. We will be back next week, and we will see you next time.